Husband refuses to properly care for our newborn while tattling to his mom, so I'm planning our escape to ensure our daughter's safety. I'm 23F, my husband is 28 male. We've been married for 4 years, together for 5. We met when I was 17 but didn't officially start dating until I was 18. My husband has done a lot for me, paid for entire semesters of college when my parents refused to complete a FAFSA, encouraged me to take out loans when we couldn't afford to pay for my tuition entirely, moved me away from abusive/toxic family members, but I'm really struggling with this. I had a baby 9 weeks ago. It was a rough birth. I was laid off from a really awesome job working in an office as a customer service rep due to budget cuts while pregnant. My husband swore he'd take care of us, we'd be able to survive off one income, etc. all that bullshit. I went through what little savings I had with a quickness because even though he talked a big game of taking care of us all, he still insisted I pay my share of the bills. I'm still in unemployment appeal hell. I was applying to jobs left and right up until I was 38 weeks pregnant and realized no one was going to hire me so close to giving birth. I have a bachelor's degree and literally ended up getting a waitressing job at fucking Cracker Barrel just so I can have income coming in. My husband works a federal government job and has 12 weeks of paid parental leave. He promised he'd watch over our girl while I work to save money on daycare. I've been at this waitressing job for a little over a week. It's tough, going from an office setting to being on my feet all day. I'm in a lot of pain, but having some job is better than no job, so I just deal. The quality of care that my husband has been giving our daughter is getting worse and worse. I come home to her not being changed, not being fed, or her blowouts are so bad she has shit up her back. I've tried talking nicely, I've tried being reasonable, I even suspected he had male postpartum depression or some shit, and he told me he just couldn't connect with her and all she does is cry and it's grating on his nerves. Today was the worst one yet. I came home to my daughter still in her crib, still in the pajamas she was in the night before. After I laid out clothes for her, she was red in the face from crying so much. I started to warm up a bottle and asked my husband when did he last feed her. His answer was I haven't given her a bottle today. She cries every time I try to hold her. I just lost my shit on him. All hell flew through me and I couldn't contain my anger. I called him a piece of shit, neglectful father and asked why the fuck did he knock me up/refuse/make me feel bad for using condoms if he wasn't going to take care of the child he helped create. I'm working 8-hour waitressing shifts, making $3 an hour plus tips, still bleeding, feet constantly hurt, trying to dry up this breast milk all while putting on a fake ass smile and trying my damnedest to make money and tips to have enough to bring home and pay my share of the bills every 2 weeks. I ended up locking baby and myself in the bedroom and told him to just fuck off and leave us alone. Managed to calm my daughter down with a bottle, a bath, and now she's napping, but I am still so fucking angry. My husband told his mom I guess and tattled on me. My mill decided to message me and give me a hard time because he doesn't know what he's doing. This is his first time being a parent and yeah, I pushed a 7-pound watermelon out of my vag and I'm still not neglecting my baby. I'm so angry and tired of this. Our daughter deserves better. Hell, I deserve better. I sent him a text that he either needs to shape up or ship the fuck out and his response was, "Where are you going to go?" And now I'm just beyond angry and frustrated with him and his level of care for the child he helped make. I'm even more angry that he ran to his mom, who can say something shitty to me but can't come over and help her son if he's feeling overwhelmed. My head is spinning and I just need someone to set me straight. I keep wavering back and forth on if I am the asshole or not over this. I just want my daughter to have a competent father and not a neglectful one. If I could up and leave him to make him face reality, I would, just to show him I'm not fucking around. Edit, for you guys saying leave now. I have $6 to my name. If I could leave, I would. I'm going to social services on Monday. The domestic violence hotline was able to connect me to one shelter and they're trying to find placement for us for the weekend. Stop messaging me that I should have aborted my baby or given her up for adoption. If I had known my husband would be so fucking awful at taking care of her, I would have never had her at all. Can't exactly turn back that clock. Some of you guys need a lesson in empathy. I do not want this to continue. Edit 2, shelter won't have space for us until Monday. Literally asking old coworkers and the 3 friends I have left if they can loan me money to get a hotel room for the weekend. I have a to-do list for Monday, with social services and calling lawyers and seeing whatever the hell else can be done next week. This sucks. I feel horrible for my daughter and keep going from crying to being angry and full of rage again. My daughter deserves better and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure this never happens again to either of us. Thank God I have an IUD and he can't knock me up again. I feel both hopeless and just wanting to escape again. Here's hoping I have some success and can update y'all on Monday over everything. Edit 3, to clarify, I am not having sex with my husband. I got the IUD to have more permanent birth control since he was pressuring me to have sex before I was ready/even before the 6-week mark. I do not want to end up with another kid/Irish twins because of his refusal to wear condoms. I am going to call lawyers on Monday to talk about divorce. I don't want to be with him any longer and I want better for myself and my daughter. People are asking if I have GoFundMe. I don't, but I have Cash App and Zelle. Update 1. I ended up taking baby girl to the hospital last night. After my soon-to-be ex-husband left to go drink or do whatever, I waited until he was gone, and packed a small bag with all of our important information and went to the emergency room since my daughter's pediatrician is closed until Monday. She was looked over and they kept her overnight for observation after I told them everything. She had a rash, they tested for a UTI, and I expressed my concerns over her having shaken baby syndrome, which wasn't something that even crossed my mind until a lot of people mentioned it in my first comments. The emergency room doctor said she was alert and bright, and very unhappy with the fourth. She cried so hard when they stuck her with the needle, so they wanted to observe her first before putting her through a CT scan. She was dehydrated, so she had to have an IV put in. I think I got maybe 4 hours of sleep throughout the whole ordeal. She is such a happy, smiley, drooly little baby, and my fucking heart breaks for what she had to deal with at the hands of her father. I will have to have a CPS case opened against me and her father for his neglect. I'm going to cooperate with them so it helps me gain as much physical and legal custody over her. I don't feel confident that when we divorce and he is granted some type of custody, this won't happen again. Since I called out of both of my weekend shifts and Monday shift to go to social services, best believe I am applying for everything. SNAP, WIC, TANF, medical insurance, etc. I don't think I will have a job at Cracker Barrel much longer, but I literally took that job just to have a job. A couple people messaged me with remote jobs that I might be able to get with my degree. Once we're settled in the shelter, I'm also hoping they will be able to help me find a decent job, hire an attorney that won't cost $5,000 for me to divorce my husband, and help me set up child support payments. He can fuck all the way off into the sunset for all I care, but I didn't knock myself up by myself. So many of you were kind, offering me places to crash and support. I am so thankful and cried a lot. A lot of you have been in my situation and gave me words of hope when I was feeling really, really down and dumb over my choices. I have a hotel room for the next 2 nights thanks to awesome people in this sub. We are going to the shelter on Monday where we can start rebuilding pieces of our lives, and honestly, I wouldn't shed a tear if my soon-to-be ex decides to just give up his parental rights. I've practically been a single parent for the past 9 weeks. What's another 18 years of doing it by myself? I literally left with the clothes on my back and a bag for us both to share, so the thought of just starting from scratch is terrifying, but I know it's what I have to do. I know a lot of people were worried about us and our safety, but we are safe. We are okay, for the most part. I still go back and forth from sadness to rage to feeling down and being angry at my 17-year-old self for thinking an older man would take care of me, and it turned out to be a bunch of lies. I have blocked my mill and soon-to-be ex, and I'm genuinely thinking of changing my phone number to cut off all communication with them both unless I'm ordered to by a court or something. I just want to wash my hands clean of him and pretend he doesn't exist. I can never trust him, or his mom really, again with my daughter. As someone who didn't grow up with a father and it made my mom hate me because I looked like him, I have a very clear memory of her throwing a pot of water at me because I made a face that looked like my dad's. Part of me hurts for my daughter because I sure picked a shitty sperm donor for her, but she deserves so much better than him. Update 2. To make a very long story short, I am 23, he is 28. We officially started dating when I was 18 and he was 23. He groomed me, manipulated me, and has shown himself to be a horrible, neglectful and abusive person. I had to leave him and take our 9-week-old daughter to the emergency room because while I was working, while he's on paid parental leave, he left our daughter in a soiled diaper, no change of clothes, and didn't feed her. I ended up taking her to the emergency room where I found out she has a rash. She was dehydrated and had to have an IV put in. He couldn't connect with her and said her crying was grating on his nerves and pushed me to go back to work so we could save on daycare. A CPS case will be opened against us both because the emergency room doctor is a mandated reporter. I'm terrified of her being taken away from me because I thought I could trust him to watch the child he helped create. He tried to pressure me into having sex before my 6-week checkup / before I was ready. He got mad when I had an IUD placed at my 6-week appointment because I wanted something more permanent for birth control because of his refusal to wear condoms. I'm terrified of the consequences of his actions even though I'm the one who left. I'm the one going to a women's shelter on Monday. I'm going to ask about legal aid to get the divorce process rolling. I'm terrified of him ending up with some sort of physical custody, and he abuses / neglects her on his time. I called out of my weekend shifts and my shift on Monday, and I'm pretty sure I won't have a job to go back to, but I don't care. My daughter is more important. She is such a smiley, happy, drooly little girl with big blue eyes and the cutest little dot nose, and I'm so angry and frustrated and sad for her that her father turned out to be this way. I'm terrified that I won't be able to divorce him and be free of him. I'm scared to start from scratch. I left with the clothes on my back and our important paperwork and more stuff for baby girl than myself. I haven't showered in over 24 hours and I think I slept maybe 4 hours last night. I keep looking at my sweet baby. The anxiety in the pit of my stomach is killing me. We are going to the shelter on Monday where we can start rebuilding pieces of our lives, and honestly, I wouldn't shed a tear if my soon-to-be ex decides to just give up his parental rights. I've practically been a single parent for the past 9 weeks. What's another 18 years of doing it by myself? I literally left with the clothes on my back and a bag for us both to share, so the thought of just starting from scratch is terrifying, but I know it's what I have to do. His own mother tried to defend him, saying he didn't know any better and it was his first time being a parent, but I'm not the one who left my newborn in a shitty, piss-soaked diaper and let her be filthy and hungry, and cry until she was red in the face from needing someone. I don't know if I can ever forgive myself for what she had to go through because I was pressured into going back to work to pay my share of the bills at the adamance of her father. I just want to wash my hands clean of him and pretend he doesn't exist. I can never trust him, or his mom really, again with my daughter. As someone who didn't grow up with a father and it made my mom hate me because I looked like him, I have a very clear memory of her throwing a pot of water at me because I made a face that looked like my dad's. Part of me hurts for my daughter because I sure picked a shitty sperm donor for her, but she deserves so much better than him. As someone in a similar situation, and I wish while I was with my ex had gotten CPS involved. 2 years later we did have an investigation, but at this point I can only say what I saw 2 years ago. Now that CPS is involved, they are going to want OP to file an ex-parte order so that she can show her protective capacity. Please OP file that with all the endangerment you have witnessed. Update 3. I don't even know where to begin, because the last 72 hours have been the most chaotic, emotional, terrifying, and strangely empowering moments of my entire life. Let's start with the obvious. I am officially done with my husband. There is no coming back from this. No second chances, no more pleading or pretending he's going to change. I am 100% done, and I have the legal paperwork to prove it. I managed to get an emergency protective order, EPO, against him. The shelter and the fallout. First off, we got into the shelter. It's not glamorous, but it is safe, and I finally got to sleep without feeling like I had to keep one eye open in fear of what he might do. They have caseworkers here who immediately jumped into action, helping me document everything for CPS, including texts, photos of my baby's rash, and even the hospital records. The absolute kicker? When he found out where we were, he tried to show up at the shelter. Security wouldn't let him in, obviously, and he lost IT. Screaming, threatening to take our daughter, saying I was a liar, that I manipulated the hospital into thinking she was neglected, and that I was ruining his life. The shelter immediately called the police, and that's when I found out that this man, this absolute garbage excuse of a father, was drunk. In the middle of the day. Police escorted him off the premises and informed me that this only strengthened my case for full custody. My caseworker said that between the hospital records, his behavior, and the CPS investigation, I am in a strong position to argue for supervised visits at best, or, if I'm lucky, get him to sign away parental rights altogether. I am praying for the latter. His mother's insanity because, of course, his mother had to get involved. This woman actually had the audacity to show up at my workplace, where, by the way, I was fired for missing my last shifts, so thanks for that, X. She cornered me in the parking lot, screaming about how I was overreacting, that babies cry and men struggle with connecting to newborns. And I just snapped. I told her, very calmly, that if she wanted to defend a man who let his 9-week-old daughter sit in a dirty diaper for hours, refused to feed her, and got so overwhelmed by her crying that he just left her in a crib all day, then she could take her bullshit somewhere else. I also told her that CPS was investigating, that I had a restraining order against her son, and that if she came near me again, I'd make sure she was added to it. She left in a huff, of course. But I have no doubt she'll keep trying to get involved. The money and the future, I am still broke. But the good news is that a few people from my past, old friends and even some former co-workers, have come through with small donations and job leads. A woman I used to work with in my office job reached out and offered to connect me with her company for a remote admin job, which would be an absolute miracle if it works out. I'm also working with legal aid on getting child support set up ASAP. He doesn't deserve to be in my daughter's life, but he will pay for her. I don't care if he fights it, I will take every legal avenue possible to make sure he is financially responsible for the child he neglected. As for me, I don't know what the next few months will look like. I am exhausted. I am drained. But for the first time since I gave birth, I feel like I have control over my own life again. My daughter is safe. She is healthy. She is smiling again, and every time she looks up at me with those big, beautiful eyes, I remind myself that this is why I'm doing this. Update 4. So much has happened, and I'm still trying to process it all, but I need to get this out. First, baby girl and I officially made it to the shelter on Monday. I don't even have words for the relief I felt walking through those doors, knowing we were finally somewhere safe. The staff has been incredible. They helped me apply for emergency assistance, food benefits, and even connected me with a caseworker who is going to help me with legal aid. I have a meeting with a lawyer later this week to start the divorce process and get full custody. It's happening. It's actually happening. Now, for the absolute insanity that unfolded with my soon-to-be ex. After I left, I blocked him on everything. My mill too. I wanted nothing to do with them. But apparently, that only made him angrier. He actually called my job pretending to be a customer to try to figure out if I was still working there. My manager, bless her soul, saw through his bullshit immediately and refused to give him any info. Then, he had the audacity to show up at my old apartment, which I obviously wasn't at, and start banging on the door, screaming about how I kidnapped our daughter. My ex-roommate told him to get lost, and when he wouldn't, she called the cops. And here's where things take a turn for the absolutely batshit. When the cops showed up, he actually told them I had run away with his baby and that he wanted them to retrieve her. But because I had already spoken to CPS, given them my location, and documented everything with the hospital, the police told him to get a lawyer and take it to family court. That's when he apparently lost his mind. He started screaming at them about how I had turned everyone against him and how this isn't fair because he's the father. And then, this is the part that still makes my jaw drop, he told the officers he needed his 12 weeks of paid leave back since he doesn't have a baby to take care of anymore. That's right. The same man who couldn't be bothered to feed his child was suddenly super invested in getting his paid time off reinstated. But it gets better. Apparently, when he realized the cops weren't going to hand me and baby over to him, he turned on them. Started cussing them out, calling them useless government pigs. This man works a federal job, mind you, and got himself arrested for disorderly conduct. Let me repeat that. He got himself arrested. I found all of this out because the caseworker at the shelter got a call from the officer handling the CPS report. They wanted to let me know that my ex was officially in the system for this incident, which only strengthens my case for full custody. But wait. There's more. I got a message from a woman on Facebook, from a new account because, again, I have this man blocked. She claimed to be his ex. As in, the ex he dated right before he got with me. She wrote this long message apologizing to me and saying she should have warned me years ago because he did the same kind of manipulative, controlling bullshit to her. She told me he had a history of losing interest in things the moment they required effort, including relationships. Said he was never physically violent, but he would use mental and emotional manipulation to wear her down. She told me she had an entire folder of old messages from when they were together where he said things like, "I don't get why women expect so much from men. We provide, isn't that enough? And I'd rather be single than deal with a clingy, crying girlfriend." Sound familiar? I'm in shock. I always knew he was a selfish asshole, but the fact that he had done this before? That he knew what he was doing when he manipulated me into having a child with him? That he never planned on being a real parent? I want to throw up just thinking about it. But here's the good news. Things are already looking better for me and baby girl. We're safe. I'm getting legal help. The shelter is assisting me with job placement, actual office jobs, ones where I can use my degree instead of making $3 an hour in tips. And with everything he's pulling? The lawyer thinks there's a good chance I'll get full custody with supervised visits at best. It's still overwhelming. I still cry at night because I can't believe I let myself end up in this situation. But at the same time, I feel this fire inside me that I haven't felt in years. I'm going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Update 5. I can finally breathe. Not completely, not yet, but for the first time in years, I feel like I have actual control over my life. A lot has happened since my last update, and honestly, it still doesn't feel real. But let's start with the biggest thing. I had my first court hearing. My lawyer managed to get an emergency custody order put in place, which means I officially have full custody of my daughter. My ex has no visitation rights for now, not even supervised ones, because of everything he pulled when I left. The judge looked at the CPS report, the police report from when he got himself arrested, and the documentation from the shelter and basically said, yeah, this guy isn't fit to have a child in his care. My lawyer told me that in the long run, my ex might get supervised visits, but only if he actually puts in effort. Considering he's done nothing to show he even wants to be a parent, I'm not holding my breath. Speaking of my ex, the last few days have been a circus with him. After he got out of jail, he went on a Facebook rant about how the system is designed to screw over fathers and how he's being unfairly punished for being a man. Meanwhile, in the same post, he admitted that he only wanted custody so he wouldn't have to pay child support. Let me repeat that. This man straight up posted publicly that he didn't actually want our daughter, he just didn't want to pay for her. My lawyer screenshot everything. And if you thought that was bad, my mill has been just as unhinged. She sent me this long email about how I was ruining her son's life and how she could have helped if I had just been patient. Ma'am, your son literally abandoned his own child in a crib for hours while playing video games. What exactly was I supposed to be patient for? But here's where things get wild. Apparently, my ex has been lying to his mom this whole time. She genuinely thought he was a hands-on, involved father. She had no idea that I was the one paying all the bills, that I was the one waking up every night with the baby, that he barely even looked at her. So when I responded to her email, with receipts, she went silent for 2 days. And then? She sent me another email. But this time, it was apologizing. She told me she had no idea how bad things were. She said she believed her son because she didn't think he would lie about something like that. And now that she knows the truth? She wants to be in my daughter's life, but only if I'm okay with it. I don't even know how to process that yet. On one hand, she enabled him for years. On the other hand, she seems genuinely horrified by what she's learned. I told her I need time to think about it. But back to my life, because things are actually looking up. I got a job. A real job. Thanks to the shelter's job placement program, I landed a position as an administrative assistant at a law firm. It's not glamorous, but it pays way better than waitressing, and it's a foot in the door for something bigger. I also found a daycare for baby girl, which means I can actually work without worrying about whether she's safe. And the best part? The shelter helped me apply for rental assistance, so I'll be moving into a small apartment next month. A place that's just ours. For the first time in forever, I feel hopeful. Update 6. The biggest news? I won. I have full legal custody of my daughter. Permanently. My ex showed up to court completely unprepared, no lawyer, no evidence, just the same old excuses and victim playing. The judge was not impressed. He tried to claim I brainwashed my daughter against him. She's a toddler, accused me of alienating him. He literally abandoned her multiple times, and even tried to argue that I stole her when I left. But when my lawyer presented the CPS reports, the police records, the screenshots of his public Facebook rants about how he never wanted custody in the first place, it was game over. The judge ruled in my favor completely. No visitation. No shared custody. Nothing. He has zero legal rights over her now. And the best part? He has to pay child support. He threw a full-blown tantrum in the courtroom, yelling about how the system is unfair to men and how I was just after his money. Mind you, this man is broke. Security had to escort him out. I was shaking when the judge finalized the ruling. It didn't feel real. After everything, after all the fear, all the uncertainty, I was finally safe. My daughter was safe. As for his mom? After our last conversation, she tried reaching out again, saying she wanted to be in my daughter's life. I thought about it long and hard. I do believe she was manipulated by my ex. But at the same time, she enabled him for years. She ignored the red flags. She made excuses. And even after learning the truth, part of me felt like she was more upset about being lied to than about what actually happened to me and my daughter. So I told her this: if she truly wants to be involved, she has to prove it. That means consistency. That means respect. That means putting in effort and understanding that I set the boundaries now. She agreed. So we'll see. I'm cautious, but I want my daughter to have family, just not toxic ones. My own life? I'm still at my new job, and I love it. For the first time ever, I feel like I have stability, a steady paycheck, a work environment that doesn't drain the life out of me, and actual career growth. My boss has already hinted at future promotions if I keep this up. And the biggest change? We moved. Not just into any apartment, our own place. It's small, but it's ours. No more shelters. No more temporary housing. No more walking on eggshells, worrying about what's going to happen next. Just a safe, quiet home where my daughter can grow up happy. The first night there, after I put her to bed, I just sat on the floor and cried. Not out of sadness, but out of sheer relief. I made it. We made it. I don't know what the future holds, but for the first time in years, I can actually look forward to it.